So I'm here between 6 and 8. I'm going to be giving you a kind of a relaxed, kind of chilled out session. We've got Dayve Dean in the studio here. Say hello, Dave.
Hello, how you doing?
Let's see, he is there. It's not just me throwing my voice. And he's a local artist, so we're going to be talking to him. And a little bit later on, we're going to be telling you about the best of what's been on Cre8 today.
Crowded house, David Gray, that kind of vibe. Sort of.
Which is kind of like you've just listed some of my favourite bands there.
And I'm liking the sound of that.
Good. But how did you get started? I suppose is always an interesting question.
Well, I've been playing guitar and writing songs really forever. Really, I probably picked up a guitar first at about age 5 or 6 or something like that, and just haven't really put it down since. It was just the only thing I've ever wanted to do, only thing I've ever wanted to be, really, you know. So when you're at school, people say, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to be a singer." And
see, I did that.
It hasn't really changed.
I played the keyboard for a long time, but I could never actually be very good at it.
You say that, you've got a grand piano in the corner of the studio. I think you should tickle the ivories.
Maybe a bit later. Don't want to show off in front of you.
All right then.
But so is it now a professional thing that you do, or have you got a job alongside it?
I sort of vaguely make money from music and vaguely make money from doing ridiculous things. Really, just any silly jobs that fill in around it, which generally is sort of promotion, marketing, PR related things. So dressing up as gorillas and various other ridiculous things.
So that was you on the high street the other day?
Probably so, yes. Normally is.
Well, you're talking about making money from music, and that's become a lot easier now with downloads. It's a lot easier to find unknown artists and people like you, for example, on iTunes. But is that necessarily a good thing for the music industry as a whole, do you think?
That is a huge question.
It is.
I mean, in terms of sort of downloads and things like that, in terms of being able to get songs immediately out there, I mean, it's a fantastic thing, and it's a lot easier for people to get online distribution than it is for the physical distribution, and a lot cheaper to do as well. It would be maybe sort of £30–50 to get songs actually online, whereas you'd be paying thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, to get physical copies in lots of shops. But the other side of that is because anyone can do it, everyone does do it, and there's not necessarily the quality distinction that there used to be, and also it's so easy to get lost in there. There's sort of thousands upon thousands of bands, so it's still not that easy to get noticed, even though the stuff is available and on there. So it tends to be really that more money is made through live performance these days than actual music themselves, and that's across the board, whether it's sort of smaller acts, unsigned people, right up to sort of big names. It tends to be, I think Madonna's recently signed to a live music company that releases records rather than a record company that then sort of does tours and things like that. So it's a real sort of shift in the industry, because obviously with digital copies it's a lot easier to pirate as well. Well,
I was going to say, do you think that the industry's kind of adapting quick enough to the whole change of now finding digital copies?
I think the industry is changing in that they're starting to realise there's ways to do it, but for a lot of years there was a real sort of feeling that they were going to really clamp down on any kind of piracy and any digital downloads, even to the point of you couldn't play a lot of CDs on computers for a while. I think Sony Music was one of the ones, or Warner, one of them. They actually put blocks on the CDs themselves. You couldn't even play it in some CD players. So they almost went too far the other way, and now they're coming back. And I think that they're sort of shareholders in things like Spotify and things like that, and people like Napster and obviously iTunes are now sort of all legal kind of sites. So they're sort of coming around, but they're really playing catch up and looking at other ways to get around and do it. But there is a campaign started recently by the MU, the Musicians Union, which is called Music Supported Here, and you can find information about that on their website at musicsupportedhere.com. And it's really about sort of the changes in the digital world and giving the freedom about copyright really back to the artists themselves. And it's really about sort of the freedom to, if you want to give your music away, that's fine, no one's going to stop you doing that, but you should really control that process. And I know I have, as well as music available for sale, I do a weekly or weekly-ish podcast of just a new song or a live recording or a demo, or just something I've been messing around with. Really, it was when I started it, the idea was just it would get get myself in gear to actually get and record and write a few more songs was the idea. So it was a sort of selfish thing, but.
Well, it's also kind of like a promotional tool for yourself.
Well,
then,
exactly.
isn't it?
When I started it, I didn't really envisage that many people would come across it. And I now get hundreds of downloads. Each one I put on there probably has up to 1,000 downloads in a week or so. They're online for sort of 2 or 3 weeks, and they get thousands of downloads. So it's surprising how many people have got it. But then the other side of that is surprising how many sort of free download sites have got hold of it as well. And I get a sort of email from Google about whenever Dayve Dean is mentioned on their searches, and every day I'm getting emails saying this MP3 site has added your songs, and it's really sort of people stealing. I kind of think at the moment, well, it's getting things out there, and that's fine, but it's not really what I've licensed it for, and that's really what the Music Support Your Here campaign is about, is trying to make sure that if people are going to do that and you're going to give the music away, you've got control over it, and if you say, actually, no, I don't want it used for that, then you've got that control over it as well. And it also takes it further than just people buying the music. There's also bigger things like sort of sync rights, like people using it in adverts and computer games and things like that. In theory, if you give a song away for people to listen to, you don't necessarily want to hear it on an advert for sofas or something the next week, or if you do, you want to choose which advert it's in, you want to be paid for it, and that's really sort of the all-encompassing thing of where making money from it is from. And obviously the main drive of doing it is just because you want to do it. It's not about money, but at the end of the day, you still have to pay your bills. So it's quite nice if you're putting money into it, then it's nice to be able to cover your expenses, if nothing else, really.
Well, we'll talk a bit more about downloads and internet a bit later, because there's a big loop to my process here. So if you're a bit confused, I will explain all later. But let's talk about your new single, which is coming out in the next couple of months.
Yeah, no exact date yet, but I'm looking at sort of late May, early June, and it's a song called Ordinary, which is on my Octagon album. The album was released a couple of years back at the Edinburgh Festival. I did a month-long run of dates there, and I've sort of been promoting the album ever since, but the single is coming out. There's a campaign, I suppose, initially on Facebook, but also sort of going to other parts of the internet and the real world, called Storm the Charts. I don't know if you come across that one already?
Well, we'll talk about that a bit more later. But first, let's hear the track, shall we?
Okay, that's good.
So, do you want to introduce it yourself?
Okay. Well, this is a song called Ordinary.
And you can't make me swallow yours. I spoke to